We have already defined equivalent weight and equivalence. Now the question is, how does one find equivalent weight under different circumstances? First, let's talk about equivalent weight of an element or compound in a non-redox change. Non-redox change. For an element, just find the valency and divide the atomic mass by valency. If it is a compound, then molecular weight divided by the total charge on cationic or anionic part. For example, for NaCl, molecular mass or formula mass is technically more correct, 58.5 divided by total charge on the cationic or anionic part. You can either take cationic part or you can take anionic part. Sodium or chlorine. Sodium +1, chlorine -1. In any case, you have to divide by 1 only. 58.5 divided by 1. Another example, AlCl3. That was NaCl. AlCl3 is this. Its mass 35.5 into 3 plus aluminum 27. 133.5. Divide that by the total charge on the cations or the total charge on anions. In fact, cation is only 1, but anions are 3. 3 chloride ions are there. The total charge you have to see on the anionic part, which will be 3 minus 1 into 3. So 3 in any case, whether you take aluminiums +3 or chlorides -1 into 3. Divide by 3. There is an alternate approach also. That's what you are seeing here. I have discussed one approach. An alternate approach is like this. It says equivalent weight is the sum of the equivalent weights of various parts, that is cationic part and the anionic part. How does one find the equivalent weight of, say, cationic part? Its mass of the cation divided by the charge on it, 23 by 1. Then anion, mass 35.5 divided by 1. Add the two. You will get the same answer. AlCl3 also we can do by this approach. Equivalent weight of cationic part plus equivalent weight of the anionic part. So for cationic part, it will be 27 divided by the charge on it, which is 3. And for this part, it will be 35.5 divided by 1. Now, if you are thinking, why is it 35.5 divided by 1 if there are 3 chlorine atoms? That is, there are 3 chloride ions. So why should it be 35.5 divided by 1? Well, it really makes no difference if you choose to do it in this manner, 35.5 into 3, because there are 3 ions, mass will be this much. But then you will also have to divide by the total charge. Total charge will be -3. So it doesn't matter basically. So there may be several chloride ions, but if you just consider one ion, it works just the same way. 35.5 divided by 1 is same as 35.5 into 3 divided by the total charge 3. So there are two approaches. You can choose whichever approach you want. I think this could be quite convenient, this approach. Don't have to split things. In total, you can handle. Now, how about taking a complicated example? Big one. Here comes a big one. Have you heard of this thing? It's a very well-known thing.
Sir, is it potash alum?
Alum, yes. So that's what it is. So how do we do it? Well, equivalent weight is m upon something. What is that something? Total charge on anionic part or total charge on cationic part. Whichever you like, cationic part or anionic part. I think cationic part should be simple to handle. Anions sometimes can be big, like SO4 minus ion, then carbonate CO3 minus ion. Cations, look at that, potassium +1, Al +3, simple fellows. But it's your choice whether you like to consider total charge on cations or anions. Potassium has got +1 charge, so there are 2. The 2. But we want total cationic charge, not just one fellow. 2 aluminum. Aluminum alone +3. So 2 + 6. So total cationic charge will be 2 + 6 equal to 8. So your answer, m by 8. What is m? Well, that you can find out. It will take some time to work that out. Potassium's mass, sulfur, oxygen, all aluminum, all masses you have to add. You can get m. Any questions? Let me know. What we have discussed is for non-redox. Non-redox change. equivalent weight will depend on the reaction, right? So one has to know the type of reaction. Redox reaction means electron transfer has taken place. Non-redox means electron transfer has not taken place. And what we are discussing is for non-redox. When we discuss redox, then it's a different ball game. In redox reaction, you have to see electron transfer that has taken place. To give you an idea, carbon monoxide, in carbon monoxide, what is the behavior of carbon, and in carbon dioxide, what is the behavior of carbon? We will say that carbon monoxide can be further oxidized. It already has oxygen. Carbon monoxide has oxygen. But still we will say that it can be further oxidized to give carbon dioxide. You must be aware that various elements have got multiple valencies. Multiple valencies. PCl3, PCl5, both are possible. PCl3 and PCl5. Nitrogen has got several oxides, not just 1, 2 or 3, several oxides. Species have got multiple valencies, multiple charged state, you can say, multiple apparent charge state. So electron transfer is very much possible in certain types of reactions because species can have multiple valencies, multiple charged, apparent charged states. Somebody may like to live at +3 or +5. +3 is also okay with it. +5 is also okay with it. Multiple oxidation states are possible for different things. So how does somebody become +5 from +3? Well, by losing 2 electrons. You got +3, you lose 2 electrons, +5. So when we talk of redox reactions, then in them electron transfer takes place. And that decides the equivalent weight. So we are not discussing about that right now. Now comes the case of acid and also of base. In case of acid, it is molecular weight divided by the basicity of the acid. Basicity of the acid. What is basicity of an acid? How many protons are donated by the acid? HCl is a very simple example. It will donate 1 proton. H plus ion is proton basically. Hydrogen atom with positive charge is just proton, nothing else, because electron it has already lost. Plus charge means electron is already lost. So H plus ion is nothing but single proton. How many H plus ions an acid provides? That is the basicity of the acid. For HCl, it will be 1. But there are multiprotic acids. Multiprotic acids, they can donate several protons. Consider H3PO3. The formula may give a wrong impression that its basicity should be 3. If you look at this reaction, H3PO3 reacting with the base, you realize that only 2 hydrogens are replaced by sodium atoms. Only 2 hydrogens, not all 3. If the basicity is 3, then all the 3 hydrogens should be replaced by sodium. That's why reaction is important to know. When you look at this reaction, you know it. It's not 3, it is only 2. Total hydrogens don't matter. It is the replaceable hydrogens that matters. So when you are calculating equivalent weight for H3PO3, looking at this reaction, you will take it as m by 2, not m by 3. M is the mass. What about the equivalent weight of a base? Well, same way, it is the mass divided by the acidity of the base. How much OH groups are getting replaced? How many OH groups are getting replaced? An average is a simple case. It has got only 1 OH group. 1. For an average, it is 1 only. Acidity is 1 only. So m by 1. But you can come across cases like MgOH whole twice, CaOH whole twice. So that's how we handle acids and bases. Earlier I said that if you want equivalent weight of an element, take its atomic weight, divide by its valency. For iron, you divide by the charge. So what is the equivalent weight of aluminum ion? Aluminum is +3. So what is the equivalent weight of aluminum +3 ion? It's the mass of that ion divided by the charge on it. For aluminum, it will be 27 divided by 3. For aluminum cation, it will be 27 divided by 3. Okay, so we have got atom, we have got compound, acid, base, ion. How about redox reaction now? Redox reaction, reduction oxidation. You must have learned about oxidation reduction reactions as adding oxygen or losing oxygen. That is not the modern approach regarding oxidation reduction. Modern approach doesn't talk about oxygen for redox reactions. Oxygen is important due to historical reasons. Oxidation and oxygen, these words rhyme a little bit. But in the modern context, oxidation reduction reactions have to do with electron transfer. Oxygen may not be even involved in the reactions. It is all about electron transfer. It's all about charge increase or charge loss. If you are thinking that compounds are generally electrically neutral, then who is gaining charge, who is losing charge? If compounds are generally electrically neutral. It is like your body is electrically neutral, but there are regions in your body where negative charge is more and positive charge is more. If you look at the center of an atom, nucleus, you will not find negative charge at all. But you will still call an atom to be neutral. But that does not mean that its center is positive. So while a compound may be electrically neutral, and often is electrically neutral, there are pockets inside that compound. There are atoms inside that compound which may appear to behave differently. In one case, an atom may show greater desire for positive, greater positive character. In one case, some atom inside the compound may show greater positive character, and the same atom in a different compound may show less positive character. If you look at manganese atom inside potassium permanganate, if you look at manganese atom inside potassium permanganate, and if you look at manganese atom inside MnO2, it is the same manganese atom, but in potassium permanganate it shows greater positive characters. It shows greater positive character in KMnO4 and less positive character in MnO2. Now, why is it so? Well, think of it like this. In one case, manganese is looking at two oxygen atoms or is surrounded by 2 oxygen atoms. In the other case, it is surrounded by 4 oxygen atoms. Yes, there is potassium also, but let's look at oxygen. Oxygen atom is known to be very much electron polar. It is known to be very much electron polar. 4 oxygen atoms, each oxygen atom great electron polar. 2 oxygen atoms, MnO2. Now you are getting some idea, I suppose, why manganese is more positive in KMnO4. It is surrounded by larger number of oxygen atoms. So while an atom is electrically neutral alone, when it has got some company, then it depends on the type of company it has got. What is the behavior of those fellows? Are they electron attractors, or are they electron haters? How do they behave? So the same atom inside different species, different compounds, may show different positive or different negative characters. This is true for many atoms. Some atoms are somewhat indifferent, like sodium, potassium, cesium. They don't care. Always one type of behavior. Or if they are alone, 0. Alone, anybody will have 0 character, any atom, alone. Oxygen atom alone, chlorine atom alone. If nobody is taking your electrons away, or if nobody is giving you electrons, you are anyway going to be at 0 state. The problem is when somebody starts pulling your oxygen, your electrons away from you, or if somebody starts pushing electrons towards you. So manganese surrounded by 4 oxygens, surrounded by 2 oxygens, it's a different ball game. Alone, manganese will have 0. 0 apparent charge. What I'm calling as apparent charge, technically there is a better word or words for it. Oxidation number. Oxidation number. Oxidation state. So when an atom is present along with others in a system of compound, then it may have different charge characteristic. So now just imagine that if manganese has got +7 characteristic somewhere and +4 characteristic somewhere else, +7 somewhere and +4 somewhere else. How can +7 become +4, for example? By taking 3 electrons. So if you know that manganese is becoming +4 from +7, apparent charge on manganese is becoming +7 from +10, rather +4 from +7, then you would say that 3 electrons must have come to manganese somehow. Electron transfer. That's what oxidation reduction is all about. Electron transfer. Somehow electron transfer has to take place. So when electron transfer takes place, then we have got redox reactions. So in redox reaction, how do we find out the equivalent weight of something? Just see its mass and divide that by total electron transfer per unit of it. So watch KMnO4. See how many electrons have either run away from it, KMnO4, or have come to KMnO4. If you want to know equivalent weight of KMnO4, then that's what you will need to do. So the equivalent weight of KMnO4 will be its mass divided by electron transfer per unit of KMnO4. Another very common reagent in redox reactions is potassium dichromate, K2Cr2O7. If you want to know what is the equivalent weight, then just see how many electrons are getting transferred from one unit of it. Are there 6? Whatever. Total electron transfer. If 6 electrons are transferred, then equivalent weight of K2Cr2O7 will be m by 6. Here in this reaction, full reaction is not shown. KMnO4 reacts with somebody to get somebody, that type of reaction it will be. Per unit of KMnO4, if 5 electron transfer takes place through that unit, then the equivalent weight of KMnO4 for that reaction will be its mass divided by 5. So for redox reactions, the rule is whatever mass is there, that is molecular mass, divide that by number of electrons transferred per unit. When we say 1 unit of KMnO4, 1 manganese atom, 1 potassium atom, and 4 oxygen atoms. When we say 1 unit of potassium dichromate, 1 potassium atom, 1 potassium atom into 2. So 2 potassium atoms, 1 chromium atom into 2. 2 chromium atoms, 7 oxygen atoms. So if 1 electron leaves, I'm just saying hypothetically, if 1 electron leaves per 1 chromium atom, then 2 chromium atoms, 2 electrons will leave. So likewise, you have to see total electrons that have been transferred from this 1 unit. 1 unit of it contains 2 units of chromium, 2 units of potassium, 7 units of oxygen, all atoms. So that's about redox reaction. In all cases, you are seeing that you are dividing molecular mass, formula mass, atomic mass. You're dividing that by X. For acid also you're dividing by basicity. For base you are dividing by acidity. For redox reactions you are dividing by number of electrons transferred per unit. And whatever you are dividing by is never less than 1. And that means that equivalent weight will be less. This is more than 1 or equal to 1 or equal to 1 also. Then equivalent weight will be less than, or it can be equal to, molecular weight, because this fellow is greater than equal to 1. Equivalent weight is molecular weight upon X. X is greater than equal to 1. So equivalent weight is less than equal to molecular weight. Now one result connecting equivalents to moles. Equivalence is gram weight upon equivalent weight. Moles is gram weight upon molecular weight. Divide the two equations and you get equivalence upon moles equal to molecular weight divided by equivalent weight. But molecular weight upon equivalent weight is X. That means equivalence is X times moles. Always remember this. Equivalence is X times moles, where what is X? X could be the charge on cation. It could be the basicity, it could be the acidity, it could be the number of electrons transferred per unit of something. Any questions?
Sir, it is equivalent or equivalence?
Is it equivalent or equivalence is what you're asking?
Yes,
Moles
sir. In the boxed equation.
in the box. Well, just like you use moles and mole, So you can use, if this is ES, you can use ES here also, equivalence. So that has just to do with plural or non-plural type of thing, just like mole and moles. That's it. When we are applying the concept of equivalence, we don't need to balance equations. Equivalents are equal everywhere. Whether I write 2 here or not doesn't matter. The rule is that equivalents of BaCl2 will be equal to this fellow, will be equal to equivalents of this fellow. All are equal. All are equal. That's it. Now let me illustrate how to solve a problem without balancing. In this problem, we have got 2 milli equivalents of this fellow, 6 milli equivalents of this fellow. And the question is, how many grams of barium sulfate will be formed? Now when I say everybody has same equivalents, it is about participating in the reaction. Some excess thing does not participate in the reaction completely because it is in excess. So the concept of limiting reactant will be applicable here also. If you have taken 2 milli equivalents of this, then taking 6 milli equivalents of this is actually just spending too much on it. It is not going to react this much. If this is 2 milli equivalents, this should be 2 milli equivalents. I mean, the thing that will be reacting is going to be 2 milli equivalents. So it's just waste. 4 milli equivalents are waste of this fellow. So it is 2 type of thing. 2 will react, 2 will react, 2 will be formed, 2 will be formed. Milli equivalents. 6 minus 2 is 4. 4 milli equivalents of this fellow will be simply be lying in the vessel. Question was, how much barium sulfate? 2 milli equivalents. We can convert equivalents to mass very easily. Equivalents are equal to mass in grams divided by equivalent weight. Right? Mass in grams divided by equivalent weight. What is the equivalent weight of barium sulfate? Its mass, barium 137, sulfur 32, oxygen 16 into 4, 64. That's the mass. Divided by X. X is the total charge on cation or anion. Cation will be convenient, barium plus 2. Divide by 2, this whole thing is the equivalent weight of barium sulfate. So gram weight upon equivalent weight is equal to equivalents formed. Solve for W and see if you are getting 0.233 grams or not. Any questions? Let me know. Take the molecular mass of this thing as Y. Just tell me what will be the equivalent weight. So your answer should look like Y by something. That something is what you have to tell me. Y should be divided by what, right? That's your assignment. We stop now.